How do you learn who you really are? It's not found in books. It's found on the battlefield. What's up, warriors? Welcome back to the Battlefield of Mind. My name is Rick. I'm the creator of the Warriors Way mindset. And today I am honored and blessed to be hanging out with the kingmaker himself, Carlo Chincarini.
Chincarini.
Right?
That's
Chincarini.
okay.
God damn it, man. That S I threw in there. There's not even an S. Chincarini. Dang it. I was practicing it too right before this.
Dude, you nailed it. When we weren't recording, you nailed it. So it's okay.
I threw an S in there. I don't know why I did
We'll just go kingmaker. It's easier to say.
All right, kingmaker. So here's what we need to do with everybody is some people know you, your people know you. Some people, my people haven't heard of you yet, but they need to know you. So who are you? What do you do? Tell people where we're going.
Yeah, for sure. So quick 30 seconds on me. I'm really passionate about helping people step into their absolute king version of themselves with that king energy, that king self that is 10 out of 10 in every part of life, not just physically, not just mentally, not just spiritually, financially, but in every part of life so that they can continue to develop that version of themselves that just kicks some ass. Bit of background on me. I'm currently in Canada to visit my wife's family, but we're from Australia. I grew up in Italy, so this is a bit of a geographical lesson for everyone. I moved to Australia when I was 14. Italy shaped a lot of my first part, especially my first business. And my first business really shaped a lot of what I do today. And I really spend my time working with two really archetypes of people. The first being business people, both men and women. And then the second archetype of people is elite athletes and teams, and really helping them to step into that absolute best version of themselves, getting away from their, what I call the little bitch self, so that they can ultimately fulfill their passion, their purpose, and kick some ass.
All right. How do I know if I'm in my little bitch self or not? How do I know?
Yeah, it's a good question. I find it takes awareness, right? So it takes awareness to know, to be able to distinguish between when you are in the version of you that kicks ass and when you are in the version of you that just continues to give in to comfort, excuses, fears, doubts, you name it. So any of those emotional states that are on a weaker energy on the side of comfort and safety, that's the fastest way to know that you're just playing in your little bitch self. It's in order to, obviously it's a facetious way just because I think it makes it easy to understand. But if you actually have a look biologically, our brain, how it operates, and I know you're big on the warrior mindset. The thing is with who we are as humans, the first enemy that we have to overcome is always ourselves, and it's that little bit self. In our brain, there is a specific part of our brain called the amygdala, which is the part of our brain that is designed to seek comfort and safety. Now, if we're people that are called to do anything worthy in our life, anything big, anything that is worth doing, we're up against ourselves. And when we talk about that, we're really talking about being up against the amygdala part of your brain, and what I like to call that little bit self, that version of us that is always looking for comfort, always looking for safety, always looking to stay the same and choosing the easy way out rather than the right way out or the right way through. So that's how I would distinguish it. It's always, it's a very quiet, it's a very small voice that requires awareness and requires real understanding of awareness of ourselves, really, to say, hey, actually, no, I'm capable of more. Instead of sitting on the couch and choosing the comfort of the couch, I'm actually going to get my ass up and go into the gym. Or, you know what? I walk past the dishes in the kitchen. I don't want to fucking do them. I'm going to do them now because I don't want to do them. So it's continuous. It involves mastery as well, because once you have the awareness, now you've got something that you can make a choice to say, hey, what am I going to reinforce? Am I going to reinforce my weaker self, my impulses of choosing easy and choosing comfort and choosing safety? Or am I actually going to choose the resistance? Am I going to dive into that? Because I always like to say that the thing is never about the thing, right? So for example, if we take the gym, for example, right now I'm doing a 365-day challenge where I do 143 burpees every single day, which is about 1,000 a week. And people hear that and like, oh, that's a lot. Why are you doing burpees? And I said, listen, you're missing the point. It's not about the burpees. It's not about the dishes. It's not about keeping your house tidy and your environment clean. It's not about that. What it's actually about, it's about mastery of yourself. Because if you master you, then everything else, all the results in our life that we actually do want and we are going for and we are chasing, we're going to be so much more likely to achieve them. So it's a long-winded answer, and it's gone a bit of a tangent, just how the brain works. So I'm going to land that plane saying that in order to know when you are in your little bit self is because often it will feel and taste and sound and resemble everything of comfort and ease.
You are right. There's a lot to unpack with all of those because we do jump around a lot. We can also tell too that like you've been doing this for a minute because you're able to put all the pieces together to complete like this is where the bridge comes from and this is how you get to the other side of it. So it makes sense. There's a couple of questions I have in here. Like, so calling somebody their little bitch self because of the amygdala, that's like the comfort safety zone. This is, it almost sounds as though it's almost judged as like, if you're going into your comfort safety zone, you're considered going into weakness. Like you're doing the lesser version of yourself. It's not as strong as you could be or should be, or maybe even would want to be. And that's the maybe part to it. So this is where it got into like, you being the little bitch self. Are you doing it the right way? Well, I've also found that the right way is subjective. Well, what's the right way? Because it seems right and wrong, good and bad is really based on goals or targets or what it is that you want to do. Well, if people aren't clear on that, how do they know if they're doing it right or wrong if they don't have a target?
100%. You've got to goals vision is probably what we're touching on here. We've got to have a vision, a purpose. We've got to know where we're going. Without that, we're setting ourselves up to fail. That's why 95% of people fail, because they actually don't know where they're going. They don't actually have goals. They don't have a purpose to what they're doing. That's one part of that equation. The answer to the question of what do we know is right and wrong, I'm very big around being conscience-led. And I don't actually believe I have the answers for anyone. I think people have their own answers, and if they actually are willing to listen to themselves, they actually know what right or wrong is. And if we are conscience-led and we listen to the voice that, man, I've realized that a lot of the stuff that I do is to keep my conscience quiet, to know that, hey, between me and me, as long as I keep that little voice, that I know that I'm showing up the best that I can, that I know that I have nothing else left to give in that day, then I've succeeded. And so I think conscience is one of those things that is easily left behind and missed in today's world. We're not conscience led anymore. We're giving to so many different, whether it's vices or stuff, and we've forgotten that part of living. And I think as a man and as a leader, whether in your own family, of yourself first, my firm belief is that the more we are able to be conscience-led and we actually take care of our conscience and we're congruent with ourselves, where we're aligned to actually our own standards and the way that and the standards of what we're capable of doing. If we're able to do that, and we can almost each and every single day go back and say, you know what, My conscience is clear today. It's quiet. I'm at peace. I've got that peace of mind, whatever that might be, with my kids, with my wife, with my work, with my money, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, with the things that I say that I want to do. And I've kept that word between me and me. I'm at peace. I'm the happiest person. I might not be smiling, but I'm the happiest as I can be.
That's an advanced tactic to even I've done this, and it's advanced to be able to get to that level because there are multiple battles to get across to that answer, which is why I'll often bring up the answer is not the solution. I know the answer is supposed to be, I'm supposed to be at peace in mind, heart, body, and soul. I know the answer is that. It's no different than the Rubik's Cube. I know what the solved one looks like. I just don't know how to do it. And so it is pretty complex to fix this. So if I were to be conscience led, like I want to be like able to go like, I follow what I believe is right. Shouldn't there be at least some sort of training that goes, I have to challenge your conscience? What do you believe is right? Because we have this pesky, amazing thing in there for protection, like denial, or we have the even more frustrating combination of excuses plus denial, which is justifications. Now, how tricky is it for us to challenge our conscience when we have justifications? What do you think?
Yeah. And that's where...
That's a nasty question, by the way.
What was that?
That was a nasty question, by the way.
It's loaded. It's loaded, and I like it. And the way that I believe one of the way that we could answer this is it requires a level of mastery. It requires a level of awareness. I believe that deep down, if we cut the shit, we know what the right and wrong thing to do is. I think if we're, but where does it get tricky, Rick? It gets tricky if we constantly give into impulses, and then it's almost like our judgment and the voice of conscience gets clouded, right? But deep down, the voice doesn't lie, right? And we can pretend, and we can avoid it, and we can pretend that it's not there, or it's like, oh no, and we could begin to justify. So this is why I like this question. It's making me think at a deeper level. I love it. But you know what? When you try to pretend that your conscience is telling you one thing, but it's actually telling you another, you don't go to sleep well. There's like this thing inside of you that you know something isn't right. And I can't say it for someone else. I can't tell someone else. They will just know. And if we really want to get to a level where we are in that king self, in that king energy, in that king frequency in our life, that is, there is a balance, there is a peace, there is a certain alignment, then that part of our life can't be out of whack. It has to be like a conscious effort every single day for us to say, do you know what? I might suck today at it. I might not be very good at it. It might be painful. It might be hard. There might be suffering involved, but I am working towards that, and I'm doing the best that I can be. And as days goes past, weeks goes past, months go past, we get stronger and stronger. We get closer and closer to a higher and higher level of mastery of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a tricky question on this one. I'm also probably going to make it even harder in a second here. So just give you, I got another, because your answers are going deeper, and I like it. In which case, you said you have to cut the shit. We have to, challenge our judgments, our impulses, our justifications. We have to challenge the shit out of them. Like there's something here that doesn't feel right. You mentioned an indicator is you won't feel at peace and you won't feel able to rest. There's something inauthentic. There's something that you're masking or you're hiding or you're suppressing or you're pushing down. I know there's something not right. And that leads me down to a really difficult thing. Well, at some point we have to be honest about the truth. Well, how do we know if it's truth? This is where people get jammed. is I want to know, am I really being authentic or telling myself the truth when I don't know if I have the awareness training yet to understand the difference?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Warrior, thank you so much for being a part of the information that we have. And you're part of our story as we are a part of yours. It's very much an honor to be able to connect with each other. If you want to know more or you want to get started with working with me or working with our warriors so that you can begin your path to authenticity, strength, leadership, and accountability, this is the way. Together, we are way stronger. Now you get to choose. Do you go forward or keep doing what you've always done? If you stay where you're at, hey, click on some of the stuff and follow what it is. We got motivational stuff. We've got podcasts. We've got more things. Just subscribe and do the stuff and we'll keep you updated. But if you want to start going in, start jumping into what our programs offer and start your journey and being the hero in your own story.
What if it's our ability to tell the truth has always been there, but it's been clouded by pride, ego, arrogance?
We were taught by somebody for the behaviors. Remember, generational curses come right in. So like we're taught by somebody how we should be. And because our parents are doing their best, our teachers are doing their best, our coaches, our bosses, our spouses, everyone's doing their best, which may be a shit show on the best day of their life. Like, that doesn't mean they're doing good. That's just them doing how they were trained, which may not be correct also. So here we are with all these stacked belief systems of what I should be, how I should be doing it, what's good, what's bad, what's right, what's wrong, and what everybody is telling me my life is supposed to be based on their opinions. How do I know the difference between authenticity and truth if I have to challenge this on my own? How do I know the truth? How do I know what it is? What the hell is truth?
I feel like truth is that little quiet voice that when truth can be truth for, I could have a truth, you could have a truth, Mark could have a different truth. Right? It's whatever, when you know that your soul is at peace and you know, and there's a guiding compass inside each and every one of us. Right? Of course, conditioning comes into this 100%. Conditioning around beliefs and what I always say about beliefs as well, because that shapes where the compass goes, right? Majority of people have never challenged their beliefs. And I do a lot of money work, Rick, and this is a prime example of where this shows up. And I think it's an easy way to explain it, because the same way that, and people, again, let's take a step back. If there is someone completely new to all of this, then an easy way to explain it would be this: that the way that we feel, and I'm going to use money. Okay, let's pretend let's use the idea of a electricity bill that comes in, right? You know, maybe electricity bills still come in as paper. I don't know. Maybe now they're just digital. Who cares? Let's pretend that it's paper. But someone gets the electricity bill in the mail, and then they start to feel and behave and act in a certain way. Now, they never questioned it, right? And they just think that that's just how they've always done it, right? And it's just not a big deal to them. But if we start to question it and put some, awareness around it and say, why do you act and feel this way? Initially, the answer is going to be, I don't know. This is just how I've always done it. But once we start to dig a little bit deeper, what do we find? We find that, hey, I learned this from my dad, right? And if I were to ask a question and say, hey, when the electricity bill comes in, how similar is your reaction to the things that you do? How you put the bill on the fridge, how you then talk to your wife, how you then respond, how you feel. How similar is that to, let's say, your dad and how he did it? Another great way to look at this is when you get angry with your kids, how much do you sound like your mom or your dad talking to your kids? And then now the cogs start turning like, holy shit, actually, I sound just like my mum, or I sound just like my dad, or I do the things that he does. So now we can sort of go a little bit deeper and say, okay, this is how our beliefs are formed, because we especially, and we know this through development, right? Human development is that for the first 0 to 7 years of our life, our brain is in theta brain state, meaning that it's in download mode, and everything that we see, hear, and experience gets downloaded without a filter, and it becomes our program. So it becomes our program around food, around brushing your teeth, around money, around walking across the street. Okay, so it shapes the whole thing, but also our beliefs are what we believe is right or wrong. So now I'm going to land the plane. So now right or wrong is shaped by the things that we heard, seen, and experienced, had emotional experiences, right? Shaped by people of authority in our life, which is our parents, which is maybe school teachers, church communities, family, extended family, and that kind of stuff. The reason why this is important is because unless we understand this, second, unless we look at what our beliefs are, see where they've come from, and actually say, well, is this my belief or is this someone else's belief? Because if it's passed on without a filter, then it's someone else's belief. If I believe that, I don't know, crossing the street, running a red light is bad, but I haven't built it as, something being bad because it's my belief that it's bad, but I'm taking on the belief of someone else's that it's bad. Until I actually believe that that's bad because I say that it's bad, then I'm always going to be carrying out someone else's belief. Going back to your point before of generational patterns, right? Now we're living our life not on free will. We're living our life based upon someone else's belief system. We're carrying out their beliefs. But this is the crazy thing, that because they didn't do the personal work and they didn't have the awareness around their beliefs, they're carrying their parents' beliefs. And their parents are carrying out their parents' beliefs. And so now we're just on this generational copy and paste of beliefs. Where is the issue? There's multiple. One of them is that, especially, let's say, around money, think about, growing up in Italy, Rick, I was raised most of the time by my grandma, my nonna, right? She grew up with money beliefs and food beliefs, because the two are very similar, from World War II, where there wasn't much money, when food was very scarce. So guess what the beliefs around money were? Put the little dollars away, right? Eat all your food, eat all of that kind of stuff. And it's passed down. Do those beliefs serve me today? No. There's 40 million Benjamin Franklin's been printed out every single day, right? So it's a different world. But unless I do the work, I'm carrying out all those beliefs that are outdated. They're not my beliefs. So we need to get to a point where we say, okay, what are the beliefs that I have right now? Let me become aware of them first. Let me understand, okay, where did it come from? Who taught me those? And then step number 3 is I need to disassociate to the ones that no longer serve me. So we're talking about right and wrong. Unless we actually challenge our beliefs, and what is a belief, by the way? The actual definition of a belief is a feeling of certainty. That, hey, no, this, God is this, and that's my belief. Okay? It's a belief because you have that feeling of certainty, because you've heard it from enough people, enough times, with enough intensity and emotional intensity, that has become certainty. Great. Now we know. So now we know that right and wrong is this, but let's challenge it. It might still be true, It might not. And you might have had experiences in your life that tell you otherwise. And you have that freedom. See, that's real freedom. That's because most people don't have freedom. Not because there's someone chaining them up or stopping them doing with a hand on their head that's stopping them, but because they're living someone else's beliefs, living someone else's life.
All right, we got a good piece here going on. Thank you for that. So I like that you went through multiple parts here, which gives us a lot to work on. And I also appreciate, too, that you found the core for just about everything leads to a belief system. You're not wrong. Even if you look at my map, beliefs is going to end up being the middle piece. And I'm doing a training on that, by the way, coming up. So people see, like, when I break down exactly the questions you ask and which place to go for each thing, we're on the same page. But it's like, how do I do it? How do I do it? You went into a lot of things that I want to bring up again here. You went into the Bill thing and how people are triggered based on the reactions or the way that you are raised. You got into the programming that people are on, which I call the default program, which, again, if you were to challenge, you'll realize most of the way that we do things is, well, the way I was raised and the way I've always done it. And that's how my dad did it. And that's how this person did it. And you realize the life you're leading is actually not yours because you're always on a program. That's what I tell people. You're always doing a program. And they're like, I'm not doing a program. I'm not on a fitness program, or I'm not in a coaching program. I'm not in any program. What are you talking about? Oh, no, you're doing choices every day that lead you to a result. You're always on a program. It may be the fuck my life up and destroy everything around me because I don't know any better program, but it's still a program. And so we're on a program, and you broke it down from free will all the way to beliefs. And I want to go in on this one thing where you said, beliefs are a feeling of certainty. I got a question for the truth or not truth on this one. If your beliefs are based on certainty, do beliefs require facts to become beliefs?
They should.
But do they require facts to become a belief?
Well, see, the way that I look at that is that beliefs that don't support us, so limiting beliefs, often come from opinions rather than fact.
So they do not require facts to become a belief.
Correct.
Okay. So if I just believe all men cheat, every man that's alive, I believe every man is a cheater.
All men are jerks.
Do I require any facts for this to be my belief system?
No, all you require is for that to be repeated enough times by enough people with enough intensity and conviction for that to become, to make its way into your subconscious and become a belief.
So beliefs in this case then would be more of a sales pitch that you buy.
It's a good way to put it, of course.
I'm going to sell you on it until you purchase.
Look, but look at what governments do.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they do. That's how you can hypnotize anyone to believe anything that you want. You know, certain, spicy cough that went around a couple of years ago, you hear it enough times through enough channels, you start to believe it.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Insights into Teens, a podcast series exploring the issues and challenges of today's youth, talking to real teens about real teen problems. Explore issues from braces to puberty, social anxiety to financial responsibility. Each week, we talk about the topics concerning today's youth. We look at how the issues affect teens, how to cope with these issues, and how parents, friends, and loved ones can help teens handle these challenges. Check out our video episodes on youtube.com/insights into things. Catch our audio versions on podcast.insightsintoteens.com or on the web at insightsintothings.com.
Well, that's fear. And you bring up the right pieces. So we're bringing fear in. So if I make you scared enough, I can make you believe what I want. Do I require facts in order to make you scared?
Of course not.
No. Does fear involve anything that has to be real?
Most of the time it's not anyway.
So now we're wondering, here we are living our lives with the filters and the things that I've seen and experienced and know, but I also have all this influence from people who would have an expert tag to them that we never challenge. Are you really telling the truth or not telling the truth? And I have to go off of a faith which requires no facts. And then we create beliefs. Now, here's another thing with beliefs. Do people live and die by their beliefs?
100%.
Okay, well, shit. Because now our belief system may not even be true. It doesn't require facts to be a belief system. People who may not even be qualified, who just gave themselves a qualification that we never challenged or looked into, based on no results and no actual thing that's like, well, they've done the thing that makes sense.
Yeah.
We then can just create a judgment or a shame or a guilt or a blame or be offended based on literally no facts at all.
Correct. And that's why this work is so important. It's so vital to the next steps of anyone's life.
So then how do I challenge my own truth when all of the belief systems can be so fudgy? We can goof them up. We can kind of make them what we want. How am I supposed to know what my values or, my feelings, or how am I supposed to catch my distractions, my doubt, my guilt, my blame, my shame, my anger, my sadness, my anxiety? How am I supposed to catch all this shit when the core piece itself may be corrupted? How do I know? And this is why we have jobs. This is why people are like, how am I supposed to figure that out? It's too advanced. If you got the enemies within, you mentioned all of them: fear, doubt, distractions, and excuses. You mentioned all the enemies that attack us and how they attack, but also the grief part. And most people don't know how to grieve. They don't know how to do it appropriately. And we do it all day, every day. We don't know. So you've got denial, bargaining, anger, and sadness, and they don't know how to get to acceptance, honor, meaning, and what it is that's happening in their life. The feelings get triggered inside of them, which creates a belief system that makes them think that they're not good, they're bad, they're a piece of shit, they're not going to be able to do it. It's not worth trying. And then their identity becomes routed around the belief systems that got corrupted by somebody's opinion that required no facts at all. Yay! Welcome to adulthood. And who trained you? People who didn't get trained very well.
Very true.
So welcome to the game, folks. So now you see why both Carlos and I have jobs, because we're like, you guys do know we got to decode all this shit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting thing here. So now we're back to the cure. Now, I'm going to go back to the thing you said, which is the free will. We went past that pretty quickly, but I do believe that there is a choice aspect to things. Now, some of you who are more logical, some of you who love the books, love the psychology, love the philosophy, you're going to like this aspect of it. But I do, just so I can give you the heads up where I want to go next, is you also mention this aspect of soul and peace. And I think this is something in these conversations that gets skipped because people add religion in for spiritual connection.
Correct.
And they goof it all up because religion can also be routed in opinions and judgments and shame and guilt and blame. Where the spiritual connection aspect of, like, heart to heart, brother to brother, like, son to mother, mother to daughter, like all these connections that we have, that's like, I can feel your energy from here, doesn't necessarily require a building to do. And so I'm going to go that way next, just to give you the heads up. But I do want to get into the logic aspect first. All right. Now, I wrote a book called Everything is a Choice. And I would hope that you go, well, let me kind of challenge, is everything a choice? Now, what is your opinion when you hear that? Do you agree, disagree, and happy either way?
Yeah, I think it is a choice. Again, I would say that it comes down to having a level of awareness that two things, that everything is a choice, and then developing the muscles to be able to continue to making that choice. Because sometimes it feels like I don't have a choice. And that's the feeling. That's a perceived idea that it's too strong, too big, and I actually don't have a mental, emotional, spiritual, physical discipline to be able to say, hey, especially if I'm in a state where I have an emotion where I say, hey, okay, I might be in shame or guilt right now. If I realize that guilt is actually just, I'm actually doing that to myself. No one else is doing it to me. So if I'm doing it to myself, I can also do to myself something else. I can also choose to if instead of injecting myself with doubt over a situation because nothing else is giving me doubt apart from me, then maybe I can inject myself with actual confidence or certainty or positivity, whatever it might be. So the awareness that you're saying, it is my choice. I am doing this to me. There's no, again, I see like the vision of like a hand on a head. There's no one with their hand on your head stopping you from succeeding, stopping you from having a body that you're proud of, stopping you from having all the money that you want to work towards. No one is doing that. There is no one with a hand on your head stopping you. So the choice is yours. Where it gets challenging is the program. And we've been conditioned to feel and act and think in a certain way for so long that those muscles are stronger. And it takes, just like when we recondition our body to be at a certain level of fitness, it takes time and it takes effort and it takes repetition. So it's just a matter of putting in those reps. So yeah, I truly believe that everything is a choice. I have a choice moment by moment how I feel. Moment by moment, do I want to step away from emotions, thoughts, feelings, states that actually make me feel like I'm the fucking man? It's my choice, right? Do I want to allow that or do I not? It's entirely up to me. So it goes moment by moment. Having that awareness that, hey, I've just gone down. And Rick, the way that I sort of like to explain this is, and you might be familiar with the work of David Hawkins, the high rise. I call it the high rise of consciousness, but it's really the map of consciousness that he talks about, right? I use the example of a visual of a high rise, and I make this high rise like a hotel, right? Where you've got the penthouse at the top, you've got the lobby in the bottom, you've got the elevator that brings you up and down. And it's about keeping yourself in that penthouse at the top, which is that king energy, that king state, where the results that we want in life are really the external views and the things that we see outside of the building, right? And anytime that elevator drops, we have to bring it back up into the state. And with gravity, what happens? The elevator wants to come down. There's always a kid in the lobby just pressing the button and pressing all the buttons and bringing you away from where you want to be. So being aware of, hey, where am I right now? Like, what's my state? Emotionally, mentally, where am I? Where's my confidence level? Where's my certainty? Where's my king energy? Where has it gone? And then say, okay, hey, I can, all I need is within me. I don't need anything external of me to be, for me to be who I want to be. This is a concept that I think is very powerful. Bringing back power to the individual to say, hey, I choose where I want to go. I choose where I don't need to rely on anything outside of me, food, drink, substances, whatever it might be, for me to be in a state of enlightenment, bliss, joy, freedom, all of that. And then once we have that awareness, then developing the muscle to say, I'm going to get myself out of feeling like shit into feeling good.
The knowing to the doing. I think it's funny you brought up Hawkins with that stuff. Yeah, I've got a couple of his things when I get into Hawkins stuff.
I had a feeling it was close by.
Yeah, I was going through this the last couple of weeks, and I got into his map of consciousness when he gets into like the different levels of the things, and I was enjoying his number system, which I thought was the funniest part about it. I'm like, you added a number system to the emotions. I love it. Mm-hmm. So I find that just somewhat for myself. It's more of like that's how his engineer brain works on this. So I liked it, but it's one of those things where it becomes highly subjective of which numbers mean more to you. In any case, I do like that it gives you at least a goal to go, like, my next level doesn't have to be a jump to enlightenment. It can be just a race to getting to acceptance. Mm. or even having the courage aspect of let me go ahead and have the courage to challenge and grow.
Yeah, in most cases, it's about moving yourself to the next one, to the next one, to the next one, to the next one. So, yeah, it's fascinating work, and it's something I'm really fond of.
Yeah, I think this stuff is cool. I like getting so many different points of view on this, and even like if you ever want to have a fun day, I know we can't solve it on this one because I've got 5 experts also working on it, and nobody solved it yet, which is getting into the needs. What do people need? The need part. Now, the self-needs ones are easy, but damn it, relationships are hard. And so we went all the way to Maslow's or Max Neef or Rosenberg, and we started Tony Robbins. We started grabbing everybody's needs lists. Even my own is very different than those ones. And nobody has that tool right yet. You know that, right? Maslow's shit's bullshit. Like, I'll call it out. If he ever wants to come back from the grave, I'll tell him. But I mean, like, it's this stuff where it's like, this stuff isn't correct. It's not usable because it's got flaws in it, too many gaps. And so there's got to be a better tool. Now, don't feel bad. Nobody's got the tool. Nobody. I've been having some big brains putting it's not a pyramid. I'll tell you that. It's not what it is. Needs are way more complicated. It's not just a spreadsheet of line up the dots. That's a little more complicated. So Max Neef tried doing that. So then we've got this list too. So now I got Hawkins' list of what is the needs? What are the things for moving up your values and moving up your things? Well, most people don't even know their values. I'll do a thing. We could have a day that, like, I've done this with multiple experts and coaches where what are your top main values? And once you actually challenge, let's see if those are your real core values. I haven't yet had a single person get it right the first time. No matter their level of expertise, PhDs, doesn't matter, master coaches. Once we start challenging all the way in, they're like, I think my top values are family and faith. And then when we get done with it, it's actually like service and growth. And you're like, yeah, that's actually how I make all my decisions. You're right. I'm like, yeah, there you go. And it's those kind of things where we don't really know ourselves, which means we understand the answers. I think your answers are right. But this is why people are jammed up. I know that I have to hack my default program. I know that I know the answer is to be trained to be able to choose how I'm going to do things next. I know that I have the understanding that I'm supposed to make the choice. I get to choose what my belief systems are, which don't really require any actual facts. I have shame in me, which was put in there, which I don't realize that's part of my identity. I've got this guilt that's put inside of me that I did things wrong or didn't do things the way they think it should have been done. I've got this doubt in me, this anxiety, these sadnesses, the depression. I've got this lack of certainty, which I know I'm not supposed to have, but I don't know how to get rid of. So I have to go in and be able to have the awareness of the program so I can make a choice. So far, you're following me, right? These are just the answers. Like, okay, I know what's supposed to happen. Why the heck can't I just figure it out on my own? And this is where people get jammed up, is that's not a solution. It's just an answer. They don't actually, like, the answer is you got to go on the other side of the river. And you're like, yeah, I understand I have to be over there. I know that's correct. I'm not arguing that's not right, but there's a river between me. And every time I swim, I get swept down the current and it kicks my ass. How do I bridge this gap? Because I don't have the bridge pieces correct. And anytime I've ever built it, it falls apart because there's pieces I don't know that I need. And so how do I do this? I have a theory on this where I want to put it out there and I want you to challenge this. The reason why is because you have created a defense to keep the most dangerous person to mess with your belief systems out. You have built a security protocol that has an ever-changing password that makes it so you can't get in there because you know that if you get in there, you can do some harm or good. And I don't know why you're in there. You don't know what you're doing yet. So I keep me out above all things. Why do you think we have to peel back the layers on people for them and go, what's the next layer? What's the next question? What's the next thing? What's the next part? Until they go, oh no, that's the real thing. Like, yes, there it is. I call it hacking people's security programs. You have a security protocol to keep you out above all. You have to lie to you. You have to convince you. You have to justify to yourself, I'm doing great. These are the masks that we live in denial. This is like if you've read Lewis Howes stuff where he gets into the masks of masculinity for the guys. And this gets into living in the suppression system and then showing a face that makes it so people like you. It could be the Joker mask, and we're always telling jokes so you don't get too close. If you're laughing, you're not worried about my sadness. Could be the stoic mask where I show no emotion. Nothing bothers me. I'm a solid statue. Could be the athlete mask where I'm badass at this, badass at that, but everything in your life is falling apart, but you act like you got it all together because you have a skill that makes you famous and or have money. Or it could be money itself. Check me out, my flex. Look at my car. Look at my plane. Look at my stuff. And you're like, that makes it so you stay away from asking, do I not have it together? Because I must be happy I have so many things. Or I get so many chicks. I get so many women. This is because there's a hole in me I don't want to talk about because I'm too busy feeling validated by the pursuit and acceptance from other people who also do not know me. I have to mask to make me look like the man. I'm the king. I'm already the king, Carlos. I'm already the king, until you can challenge the authenticity of your nobility. And this is where people get jammed up. How do I do that? I know the answers, and I know the masks that I've used to protect myself or project that I am already a king. But I don't actually have the bridge complete. Now, this is the part where I like to do the most work. When I want to pass this to you, because I know you're also helping people bridge the gap of like, how do I get to the answer? I know the answer, but I'm in my own way. What are some of the things that we can start helping people at least hack a little bit of the program just from hearing us talk?
This is loaded again.
I load the shit out of these.
You threw me under the bridge, and you just
I don't know. You're
that.
under it. I want you to build it now.
Yeah,
now build the bridge.
Yeah. Okay. I'm very pragmatic and I'm very result focused, and I like to, and I love the way you think, and I love the way that you bring things and articulate them and all that. I'm a very kind of simple kind of person. I'm very like, not black and white, but maybe a bit black and white, but I try to keep things simple simply because I have a very simple brain. I like to think, right? What I would say is this. One of the things that I would say would be the protection to keep us safe and to survive and to be in that survival mode is very, very powerful. And we do crazy things to survive. Vulnerability is closely aligned with shame. So anytime we feel that if we're vulnerable, if we really show all of our cards and who we really are, we're going to be, shamed, and we're going to be vulnerable, and we're going to be left alone. So I probably want to go back to really understanding, asking the question of saying, you know what, why am I doing what I'm doing? What is it? What is it behind this? Do I have a fear of success? Why am I stopping myself from doing this? And it's about asking questions of yourself and say, and even processing through the deeper stuff. And it takes, and I've struggled with this for a long time because I didn't have the patience to actually want to dive into it and to really look at really the dark dungeon basement of actually what was at the very core and at the center of, my deepest program. On the flip side, we know that unless you go there, you're never going to have that. Is it congruency? I'm not sure that's the right word.
Well, you can never be free if you have a monster in the basement.
Correct. You can never be at peace. Your house can never be in order.
Yeah. Your house will always be haunted because you'll hear the noises still. And you're like, we don't talk about that.
Right.
Yeah. It's scary. It's scary to have the monsters.
And it is. And it's hard to look at that. Why? Because it brings up the program. It brings up probably the traumas that a lot of people have had in their life right from an early age. The things that have really shaped them, that has been stored away, buried away. And there is a fear that, hey, if we go there, I'll get hurt. I will lose something. There's there's like this connotation of some sort of death and really deep fear, which is powerful. And so when we're talking about the river and the bridge and we're stopping ourselves, and I like what you're saying about hacking your security codes, right? It's really doing the deep work, doing the internal work, and actually saying, okay, what has shaped me so far? Why am I stopping myself and becoming, and as guys, as men, the vulnerability piece is big, because we feel like, as we just covered, that if I do all of this, it'll make less of me, or I won't be as, and then we go back into all the beliefs of what we should be that are, people's opinions and outdated beliefs.
Well,
So
that's gonna be tricky, because when you try and work through vulnerability, oftentimes we're judged. Now, the judgments also shape us too. And you're like, well, what did shape us? What beliefs shape us? I think that right now, today's day and age, judgments are the greatest weapon that people are using. What person is the judge? Well, it's the authority. And so if you're passing judgment, you must in some way, shape, or form be an authority. This requires, again, no actual ability. This is just having an opinion you flaunt it around. Remember, like we said, the belief systems are a sales pitch of who's the most confident in telling you what they think things are until you buy it. So now if I'm judging you and I'm shaming you and I'm telling you what I think is good and bad, right and wrong, there's that subconscious survival element to belong, because of our social creature element of ourselves that wants to change because of people's judgments. And so here we are now trying to seek like what vulnerability is. But if I've had you and I both have had to have so many men's calls where, like, she said she wanted me to be vulnerable, and then I did it. And then she doesn't sleep with me anymore. We're in separate bedrooms. She doesn't find me attractive. I went in, I ugly face cried and let it all out. And I put it on the table. I put myself on the altar of trust and honor and love and openness and connection. And it was violently rejected by the one person in my life that I wanted to have empathy and understanding from. So then what's the lesson? How do I then not go into a survival state when it comes to vulnerability? We learn this as guys, right? We can't go to our girls and just go, it's such a hard day today. You're like, we can't do that. It does not get received kindly. This is not like, my poor sweet man, your heart must be in turmoil. Allow me to snuggle your sweet, beautiful ass. It's not going to happen. And you're like, oh, well, what do you need? Why don't you get your shit together?
Yeah. They don't give a shit.
Right. And so empathy is lacking today for the female side. Now, they've got their own battles, that's for sure. Ladies have now burden of performance thrown on them. So now they have to do burden of beauty and burden of performance. Where's room for empathy? What about me? What about me? Is the first things that women say. You don't believe me? Read my comment section.
Yeah. There's so much to this. I don't know how much time we have. We could really unpack this.
I got hours set for you right now.
Yeah. It's part of the answer for me around this is that every man needs a man coach, because to bring that vulnerability, and again, who we're doing vulnerability for. We're not doing it for them. We're doing it for us. Why? Because when we're vulnerable, what is that? What does that do for us and for our growth, right? For how we can show up for our.
That's a good question. What does vulnerability do for us? Because right now it's classified as weakness.
But by who?
That's a good question. And right now we're convincing. I bet you I'd put a high majority of guys say, "Well, I believe it is," because we judge weakness poorly. You see somebody who can't lift their own, I don't know, you're at the airport and they can't pick their own bag up over the head. And you're like, come the fuck on. Shoulders days at least once a year. Like, at least do a little to take care of yourself. And we judge weakness not kindly. We do not look at weakness, especially as men. We don't look at a weak man as like, I like that. That's not good. You can't put your own bag in the overhead? Come on, buddy. Unless you're transporting weights.
And part of that has also got to be around standards too, right? So we've got to talk about standards around that, and like, man, like there's physical weakness, there is vulnerability. I don't think it's got to do with that. Vulnerability is actually the ability to actually open up and say, hey, this is what I'm struggling with. It's got to be done in the right way. It's not about being a victim and just being just sometimes we need a soundboard, and sometimes we need to let shit out, and we need to have that moment where we go into a bit more of to me state, right? And we just let it out until we can get into by me and then through me. That's fine, but that's why we need the right place in order to do that. Because if we're in a place where, hey, like a bunch of guys are, hey man, I resonate with what you're going through. Now let's help you build you back up. Let's get you out of to me. Let's get you in by me. Let's get you into the next phase. Let's get you just kicking ass again. Let's get you doing the right stuff with different standards too, right? Because you should be strong. You should be powerful. You should be able to just, put your luggage in the overhead locker. Like, you can't do that. If you can't do that part, then man, it's trouble. Right.
There's a series of choices that you've been making to make it so that you're not capable. You don't have competency. You can't take care of yourself, let alone how are you meant to be able to lead or take care of others, even in the most basic of tasks. This isn't fight a lion. This is fight your luggage. Yeah. And so this is where it's funny, where you go like, well, did you at least put some effort into like self-care to make it so that you're worthy of somebody who would say you have that king-like, that nobility to say, I would follow this leader. It's tough 100%. To watch your leader get beat by luggage.
100%. 100%. I mean, the whole thing about the king self is that you have power over you and your life, and nothing reigns over you, and you reign your own kingdom.
Like it's an authenticity in knowing thyself, right? If you don't know yourself, how can you have such confidence and certainty? How can I stand my ground for my own boundaries or non-negotiables if I'm unsure of what they are?
And also mastery of self on a day-to-day basis, so that you can build yourself into who you need to be.
And this allows you a place to be vulnerable. I'm going to agree with you highly on what you just said too, that men need men.
Yeah.
You need a man's coach. Men need a men's coach. I know women out there. I would say I advocate highly for women who are fighting for men's rights. Because some of the best men's rights activists these days are women, because they have sons and they see where the world's going. Yeah. If they don't stand up for their son's 100%. Rights, it's going to turn into he doesn't have a life, and he's going to be a suicide statistic if we don't fix that pendulum going too far. But for men to be able to say, I need to be able to have a valuable suggestion on how to be authentic as a man, I very much agree that men need men. 100%. Here's the thing for the vulnerability part. I think vulnerability is a few different ways. And this mastery was very difficult. I don't know how much you know about personality types for Enneagrams, but Enneagram 8. Enneagram 8 is the challenger. This is the natural leader. We also, on the unhealthy end, are sociopaths. So we don't give a fucking fuck about anybody's fucks. We think it's the most loud, audacious, too much to handle, aggressive, direct personality type. But the healthy version of that can be highly vulnerable. The reason why it's difficult is vulnerability and control are the hardest thing for that personality type. It's the hardest thing to relinquish, even to say things that are positive and vulnerable. Like, Carlos, I'm very proud of you. I believe in you. I love you, man. Like, to even be able to put yourself on a positive altar of vulnerability, they're like, nope, not doing that. That's just bitch shit. I'm back in my bitch shit now. It's like, well, I don't know if being proud of somebody and putting yourself out there to be rejected with love is necessarily a weakness. I don't know if I'm in my bitch self if I go, dude, I am so fucking proud of you. I am proud of how much work you've done. And this is where 100%. People will get confused.
I think that's very much king self. And it's king self because it's leadership. Because it's It's taking care of your people, building someone else up. Right?
This leads us right to that one crazy word for the king thing versus alpha thing.
Mm-hmm.
And people have this terminology gets fucking muddy. They get goofed up. What do you think, as far as the obvious question, what's the difference from your definition of the king versus a definition of the alpha? What do you think? You know, and obviously today's society has really weird ways they structure this. So I'd like to hear your opinion.
Yeah. King is selfless. Alpha is ego. King is selfless. A king serves. A king builds up. A king serves its people. A king is the best version of himself because people look up to him, because people need him and rely upon him to be the best that he can be every single day. Because a king that isn't in his best self has huge ramifications on the people that are in his kingdom. Alpha is ego. It's when I mean ego, the king is ego too, right? We all have ego. We just got to master it. So the king is not an outwardly thing. We're not becoming kings over someone else. It's king over self, king over me. And if I'm doing that right, I don't need to be king over someone else out of insecurity. Whereas alpha is bit on your chest, ego, arrogance, like over someone else. At least that's how I view it. I could be completely wrong.
Let's see. I'll challenge with you. Is the king an alpha?
It is. He is.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. But the king is alpha over himself.
You can't be alpha over yourself as far as king. Like alpha has a pack. Alpha is the pack. And now this is where I the challenge on this is king versus alpha. This is just versions of like healthy versus unhealthy.
Mm-hmm.
There are unhealthy alphas and there are healthy alphas. Like, and you're right. The unhealthy alpha is your frat boy, smash a beer can, fuck you guys, kick somebody's ass and be a dickhead and rule by fear, rule by anger, rule by intimidation. Sure, this is a very unhealthy leader, but people will still follow because they don't want to get fucked up. Mm-hmm. You know, so there are unhealthy alphas. They still have followers, though. But I would say an alpha and a king have followers. People go, I will go where you're going. Now, I think what you're saying by the kingmaker himself, the king aspect of it is that king version of you is selfless, serving, builds others up, is trying to strive for his best version of himself. People do look up to him. People will follow him, and people do feel secure when they're in his presence because he does want the best for others. I do believe that this person naturally will have followers. It's not just king over just himself, because if he's setting the precedence for what is right and not who is right, like an unhealthy alpha would be, well, then this makes you worthy of leadership. This makes you a king. I don't know if you agree or disagree with
leadership through service.
Sure. Well, there's different types of leaders too. There's frontline leaders, which is leadership by follow me and do as I do because I will show you the way. But there's leaders who serve from the middle. Well, how can I serve you? And how can I serve you? And what do you need so that I can make sure you lead? But there's also generals and strategists and people who lead from the back. Very good at delegation. I need 2 of you over here. I need 1 of you here. I need this emailed out. I need that sent over here. I need 2 of you working on this project. I need it done by Thursday. I need you guys here. And they're masters at delegation, moving the chess pieces, which is not a leader. All of them are leaders, just different styles. But this also would require mastery of self and all, because that lack of, like you said, the negative, insecure, arrogant, it's all about me ego, which would be an unhealthy alpha. I think people also mix up Sigma shit. I've been hearing a lot of that. Have you looked into any of that nonsense yet? Okay,
Not
so
yet.
it seems like a Sigma would be the alpha, like strongest version of an introvert who doesn't require anybody because they're at peace within themselves. And so they're like, they say a Sigma is like a tiger who hunts alone and is, able to handle anything bigger than a lion, where a lion is an alpha who has a pack. So Sigma needs nobody, one of those things. But they say it's like less than 1% of guys would be a Sigma. I'm like, well, it seems like the highest tier that an introvert could ever reach is pure like peace and acceptance and strength in every category for somebody who does not want any of the no attention. I don't want you putting the light on me. I don't want any of that shit, let alone have the courage to go directly against one of the strongest alphas they could ever meet. It's not likely that the introverts want to do this. They want to avoid that confrontation. I don't want the attention. I don't want that to go that way. So this is where if you look into the Sigma aspect, they're like, Sigma is the greatest. And I'm like, well, I'd be interested how many tigers could take on a lion pack. Not likely. The pack will win. It doesn't matter. You could take a 200-pound dog against a pack of coyotes. The coyotes will get them. Yeah. So this is where like the pack matters. But what kind of leader you are, what kind of man you choose to be, this matters too. And did you listen to the To Be Better stuff or anything that I did where I explained the gorilla alpha?
No.
All right, no. You'll like this. This is my impression of the kings.
I agree.
The kings themselves. And so I'll do this story again. When they did studies on gorillas, it seemed like the silverback, especially because they would fuck around too much and they get too close and the silverback would be like, fuck you, like get the fuck away, like protect everybody. And you're like, this is a very aggressive animal. This animal is powerful too. I don't give a shit how much you lift. You can do a bajillion burpees. A gorilla is just stronger and he doesn't even lift, bro. Yeah. Like gorillas are powerful animals. They are very, very strong. And they thought that this thing was just most of the time going, I'll kick your ass and I'll kick your ass. I'll King Kong your ass. And they're like, can't fuck with that guy. He's the alpha, right? But when they studied gorillas, they realized that only like 1% to 2% of the time is he doing any of that shit. What's he doing the other 98% of the time? Most of the time when it comes to what the alpha gorilla is doing is praising. You see the little gorillas going, check out what I can do and spinning around. And he's like, oh, like giving like approval and making them feel like, yeah, you're awesome, buddy. And you can do it. And, you see the one that's really sad and he'll go over and he'll hold the sad one and just keep them safe and feel like they're okay. And then you'll see another one learning something and he'll be teaching and he'll show how that works. And he'll be doing another thing where he's making sure that everybody feels included and everyone's involved. And once in a while you get a young one who's like, fuck you, I bet you I could kick your ass. He's like, all right. And he fucks him up. And then he goes like, now we don't have to do that again, right? And then everything goes back into order. Everyone feels safe again. Most of the time though, the gorilla is building and encouraging and nurturing and caring and loving and not kicking everyone's ass all the time. Now, don't go into chimpanzees. That's a different thing. But if we go into gorillas, the alpha gorilla is actually a builder and a lover, kind, compassionate. And this is where like, well, what kind of leader are you? If you're an alpha gorilla, you can't fuck with a gorilla. Very, very powerful, but kind and generous and compassionate. So what kind of alpha are you? That's an alpha. That's the leader. But leads by how? What are the means that he leads by? And so this is something where I always encourage my guys. I'm like, be the alpha in your pack, but lead like a gorilla. The real alpha builds each other up, man. It makes it so like, I believe in you. You got this. That's a great idea. Go for it. How can I support you in your dream?
What that sort of what's coming up with me for me around that, it's very much a well-rounded, complete leader that is able to be dominant and win when challenge arises and doesn't shy away from it and is able to protect. But then it's also complete in the terms that it cares and I'm a pretty passionate dad, and I think it's important to be able to have that part of you where he is strong and dominant, but also the affection part and the romance side with my wife and all those parts where you can where you can, it's almost, and I talk about identities in the sense of like, labels, right? A lot of people, and I think the easy thing to do when we're talking about masculinity and men and you just want to be a strong man, you just, that's all you are. And you almost like super glued that identity on instead of, and then that's where you struggle to, and we see this with business owners all the time, right? Why can't business owners relax? When they go on holiday, they're always switched on and they can never really be present. Why? Because the business owner identity is super glued on and you can't take it off, or it's embroidered in you, in the fabric. You can't take it out. It's there. But if we were to Velcro it on and we say, hey, I'm gonna, like the gorilla, when there's a challenge, when there's a fight, I'm on, right? And that's who I need to be. I'm gonna be the warrior. But then when it's time to be, when it's not time to fight, then you take that Velcro off and you put on the lover or the magician. I know the 4 archetypes of the male psyche, right? When all of a sudden we have a balance into those and they're in their highest selves, then there is that balance. A lot of guys that I see struggle with, taking one off and, putting another one on. And so that leads to all sorts of different challenges as well.
It's hard to be able to be authentic when I have to be different for wife, for kids, for friends, for employees, and for self. Those are all different. How do I match authenticity when the way I am with my wife is not the way I am with my kids? That level of intimacy would be inappropriate. Can't be the same for both of them. That's not the same. And the way that I'm intimate with my wife is not the way I can be with my friends. That would be inappropriate.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I am with my friends is not the same as I am with my employees. That's inappropriate. Now, the judgment I'm using here, the inappropriate judgment, is going to make it so the ability to be universally authentic as who you are within these. The challenge is the behaviors can be different, but do you really have to be different yourself? Do I have to be turned on all the time? Well, I would challenge that you can be authentic, but also have which modes that you use without changing authenticity. Example, you were just mentioning the armor that you would put on. This is my work suit. This is my home suit. This is my workout suit. This is my love suit. This is my different suits. I'm like, well, which armor are you using? But it doesn't have to be different. It's just which protection is needed for each thing. And I'm curious on what your opinion is. I'm like, well, the way that I have to guard myself against my wife's words are going to be different than the way I guard myself against an employee's words. It's not the same battle. One person is in a very different element of my heart than the other person. It's not to say they're not in my heart and I don't care about my employees, but they're not at the same spot as wife. That's the highest tier of trust. And so how do I guard myself against someone who's in the inner circle area who can destroy a lot more things? And sometimes it becomes a very reckless person in our lives. What armor am I using? This is a tricky game right now for guys, because which version of us are we coming with? The employer, the best friends or buddy? Are we the father? Are we the husband? And are we even being authentic with self? The identity aspect is really, really hard, because the belief systems that corrupt it come from other people. Fuck, we're back at the beginning again. Damn it. How do I be myself?
That's good.
How do I be myself? Let's go ahead and go to the obvious thing. Let's because this is one where even if we answer it, it's going to get confusing. So if you want to figure out your authenticity and you want to figure out how do I bring my best self or lead in a way that feels authentic, we've given you answers. I would say reach out to either of us for solutions. Call Carlos up and book a call and go, how do I do it, man? I want the pieces. Now, let's go to something that's hard, though. Well, guys who are doing this are getting frustrated. They're upset, man. And so we're going to anger. We're getting mad. Why? Because we talked earlier, vulnerability and weakness and crying, that doesn't work. You get rejected. But now I'm pissed, man. Fucking angry. I'm upset. So how do you help these guys when they're coming in just so hot, man? I'm angry. How do you help them out? What's some of your opinions on anger for men?
Yeah, it's a big part of that is the actual need to release that. to release that anger. A lot of the time it just gets repressed and it never actually goes anywhere. One of the things that we know about emotion, again, David Hawkins' work as well in letting go talks about that in order to release emotion, a lot of the time we resist it. And so it persists. So the first thing that I would say is to actually not resist the anger, but to simply, and the way he talks about letting go of those emotions, to get out of the way, feel it. And as just like, a knot in your shoulders, right? It's painful, but you press it, blood flows to it, you put attention to it, you don't resist it, and then it just goes, it releases. So that's one. And the second part of that is, I've lost it. Can you ask the question again, just for a quick second? I've lost the question.
All right, we're working through anger right now. We got the first part of dealing with anger is going to be release. We need to do the outlet aspect of it. Work on the anger area. Do you remember this? Your second piece?
Yeah,
I'll add. I don't mind. I got some pieces that may jar you right back in.
Yeah. Okay, go for it. I just
blanked
for a second.
No, I did. I was training. I did a training that will probably end on with this one, where I was talking about purpose right before this, and I was telling a story to raise context for the purpose point that I was going to make, and then I totally lost it in the middle of it, and I had to sit there like, what the hell was I about to say? Totally fair. I just did it like an hour ago. All right. So in which case we got the release and the outlet aspect. I also would go to the source too. And I found that the source for anger for guys is usually going to be in our loss system, because anger is part of our grieving cycle. It's part of our control system. And so when it comes in there, I found 3 different areas that's going to be like the categories that I have guys challenge to see, is it in these categories? The first one is going to be, was something taken from you or is it lost? If somebody steals your stuff, it'll piss you off. Or if something that was like important to you was lost, it's like, where the fuck is it? Or why was that taken? Or why is that gone? Or where is it? It'll make us mad. This can also go into death. It can go as extreme as somebody who was lost in your life, or loss of your marriage, or loss of your identity, or loss of your status, or loss of something important to you. The next one goes into injustice or in unfairness. That's not right. That's not fair. You shouldn't do it like that. That goes against the golden rule. I hate that. And we'll get mad because people are doing things is wrong. And then the last one, and this is mostly in any relationship dynamic, whether it's your love or it's your kids or it's your work or your boss or your friends, goes into unmet needs. And that goes Rosenberg style. Most of the outbursts that we have come from some sort of tragic unmet need. Most of the time, we don't even know how to explain what it is. It can be something like, why don't you shut the fuck up, is really the need to feel heard. And this is where people have a hard time expressing their needs. And so usually in these categories, we get pissed off. And if you have an unwilling partner, or you are afraid of conflict, or you're not sure of yourself, or you haven't worked it out, I'm going to repress. And like you said, repression leads to expression. I'm going to eventually explode at some point. The volcano or the bottling up effect, we know what that does. Did anything I just say jar your second piece?
The part of it, I completely agree. I think it's really good points. I find that a lot of the frustration, I love what you're saying about hard conversations and conflict. It's one of the temptations is to just delay things and don't address it, but then it just bubbles up and then it explodes into something way bigger. If we're talking about anger and what you were saying before, a lot of that frustration I've found from experience is little things that don't get dealt with that leading to something a lot bigger. Now, if we're talking in a relationship sense, right? The way that I look at relation, it goes back to what we were saying before about if you need a place with another man that you can bring your stuff, so that when you then show up in your relationships, right, you are there to lead and to serve, right? If we show up and serve in our relationships, right, and it's the concept of that I sort of relate it back to so many other things, right? It's the giving to receive. especially in relationships, we go and we want to get the things that we want to get, but we don't first give. And then we're like, oh, why I'm not having as much sex? Why is she being a pain in the ass? Why she keep challenging all the things that I do, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if I were to give and I build my partner up, my wife up, and I give her the things that she needs, and now because I show up in my king self and I give, then the chances of me getting the things that I want go through the roof.
Maybe. This is a hard part. Relationships is the hardest level. Like, that's the hardest too, because there's two different people. Working on self. This is where, like, I shine on working on self. Working on relationship, I am openly not a relationship coach. In fact, I am responsible for more relationships ending than saved.
Yeah.
I'm going to be very open
Makes
with you.
sense.
Well, at first I thought that, like, oh man, what am I doing? Am I really doing God's work here? I'm killing marriages. But what was happening, and this is where the guys all pulled me back. They're like, first off, you're right. Men need men. Also, women need women, just so you guys know, but for a different reason. And we'll help you with that in a second. The thing that's happening is guys will be working on themselves and actually leveling themselves up. And I don't just mean they make more money. I mean, they have more values, more principles, more boundaries, more standards. They work on themselves in health, wealth, love, happiness. They start working on themselves, mind, heart, body, soul. They have acceptance and they start figuring their things out. When this happens, they start to grow and start to expand and start to be more at peace. And it exposes that your partner is not growing. Now, there are women who are like, I want to grow. I want to grow. I see what you're doing. And they can also recognize safety, security going, oh shit, my man is out leveling me. Oh no, he's about to have more options and he's not able to stay here. That becomes a panic for safety, security. And so women go, what about me? I have to do something too. I have to do something too. Well, those women, you at least may have a fighting chance until you start getting underneath the denial aspect of, no, I just want him to not leave me and use all of his good things for me, but I am not willing to grow. I do not want to evolve with him. I don't want to improve me for him, which then exposes the level that I was at when I chose my partner. I was unhealthy, and I chose a person who would choose me because they were also unhealthy. And if either side becomes healthy and they're with an unwilling participant for health, you will kill your marriage. You will kill your relationship. It will die. You will grow apart because one person is on a growth trajectory and the other person wants to sit and stay still. If you are that, you will watch the relationship truly struggle. And this goes both ways. If the woman's hypergamy starts going up and she's doing much better, that dissonance will be too far. And she'll be like, I'm dating down, and hypergamy then becomes an issue. But if the guy starts going, I can be higher up, but there is like a ratio where it becomes too far. And now it becomes unrelatable because now she's bitching and complaining and nagging, and he's doing way too well for his standards of knowing himself to fall for it anymore. I do not comply to your judgments. I do not comply to your complaints. I am doing better. This is better. I have already solved that. I'm calm and secure with myself. Please stop trying to tear me down so you can feel safe.
No doubt.
This is where I realized this part of the relationship, if you are working on you, it does kill more than save. And this may also be the opportunity for anybody to go, well, are you going to choose to grow too and make it so the relationship is better being together than not? This is something where people are like, well, they're going to cheat on me. You're going to cheat on me, Carlos. You're going to cheat on me. I was like, hold on. I'm not trying to get into another relationship. I'm actually weighing it out. Is it better without you, period, than with you? And if the cons outweigh the pros of nothing is better than with you, you should be concerned with your growth levels.
Yeah.
So then it gets into, that's why I know I went a little bit of a tangent, why relationships are so hard is because it requires effort on both sides, a willingness on both sides. And so when you're working with men, are you seeing more of that? Because I think the servant leader only comes into the reciprocity of a person who also wants to have that return back. But you have people whose defenses are so conditioned for so many years, because guys were in their bitch self, as you will, where they were give, and never getting the reciprocation.
That's true. And I think all the points you've made are absolutely right. And I've seen so many just like you. It's almost like when you give people the opportunity to open their eyes and see that it didn't start from the right place in the beginning, right? And it's just exposing that, which is probably a good thing. In a world where two people want to be together and growing, and the man acts as the leader and says, you know what, I'm bringing you with me, right? And as long as the other person, the woman, is saying, hey, I want to grow too, then that's the point that I was making before around the leadership and actually showing up selflessly in a relationship where you don't need anything from the other person, right? Because two people are complete, coming together to serve the common thing. That's the angle that I was approaching it from, that if the man is complete, he shows up in his king self and he serves, and he's got a place that fills up his cup, gives him what he needs, and he shows up to his woman and to his family and to his kids, not needing anything. And obviously there are things that we need from our spouse, right? And from our kids, of course, but we're there to serve and to lead them and to give to them while our cup is still filled. Then my belief is that leads to a place where then the reciprocity. Word up. Yeah, that's the one. Thank you for filling out. I fuck up all the time.
I threw an S in your name. I can't give you shit for that.
Then I believe that naturally, if we give, there's also going to be a return. If we fill up our partner, and just like vice versa, right? If a woman gives the man the respect that he desires and he craves, then he's going to show up better for her. And if he gives her the love and affection and attention and presence that she craves, she's going to show up better for him.
I love the theory is correct. Like, as far as like your answer is, it's difficult to debate it. It seems correct. The human variable, though, really fucks this whole equation up. I like the idea that you say 100-100 for autonomy. Together we are better instead of you complete me. Do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, no, I agree, good. Right? But that's where the responsibility on each person, it comes to say, hey, I need to be in my king self and you need to be in your queen self.
That's the tricky part. Is, are we both able? Now, this is where I don't want to go down this rabbit hole. I want to stay on the guys with this one.
Okay.
But like, it's tough with like, what's a queen self with autonomy? And now, does she also have to be having an element of providing also? Does she also have to be bringing money to the table for autonomy to know that even if he were to not be in his king self and falter or not be, or like cross a non-negotiable for her, does she also have to be providing, or do we then lead into kind of destroying the archetype of marriage, period? Because, well, if you do fuck up, now I'm going to use the government to hurt you so I can get alimony and whatever because I, relinquished too much autonomy your direction. I shall now punish you through the government.
Yeah.
Because
do you know why this
is
difficult for me to answer? Is because there has never been a plan B option in my marriage. I struggle with it because it's the only thing it's going to work.
Well, this is the tricky part where I challenge a little bit. You have non-negotiables in your marriage, both of you, right? Mm-hmm. People say we have unconditional love. I challenge the shit out of them. Like, no, you don't. No, you do not. This whole thing is very conditional. Yeah. Don't you dare say no conditions. If you have another wife on the side, that's a condition I'm sure your wife now does not enjoy. You know, so I bet you there's conditions. If you decide I'm just not going to work anymore and stop taking care of shit, I bet you that's a condition that becomes an issue.
Correct.
So you can't say unconditional.
Yeah.
No, we have non-negotiables. We have
Correct.
things that are conditions.
Yeah.
And so to say like there is no out clause, I would very much agree saying I don't threaten that I'll leave. But then it comes into the currency of autonomy. How does a man lead when there would be a need for consequence?
No.
Well, in this day and age, you can't beat the shit out of her. That's not going to work. We're not in that age anymore. So we took that off the table. In fact, ladies, guys took that off the table. No women made guys stop hitting them. They couldn't, or they would have done this thousands of years ago. So ladies, you didn't stop that. Guys decided, like you and me, Carlos, going, you know what? I noticed when I smacked the shit out of her, she doesn't take it like we do. You seem to take a hit way better than she does. And so if we're 30 style boxing with each other, we can take some punches. But man, she takes one and she's smoked. And I don't like the black eye. It doesn't look good on her. She's not a good look. So let's agree. We just stop beating the shit out of them. Fair? You're like, all right, cool. We'll all agree with each other. We'll hold each other accountable. Let's not beat up our women. Guys don't hit girls. We'll just make the rule. We'll do that. We'll protect our ladies. We made that rule up. Girls didn't do a protest and made us stop. It didn't fucking happen. Like, so this is where guys give that gift. And women would also regulate women. Women were the ones who were like, well, that's a little too slutty. That's appropriate. That's inappropriate. Ladies regulated ladies. Men regulated men. That was happening until our generation. We fucked this all up. So this has gotten real weird lately. So when it comes to the autonomy, what is it that we can do as men to say like, well, this is the consequence. You can't just stop paying bills. You got kids, right? Or you got family. You can't just go like, well, I'm just going to make you all starve. How that'll learn you. Well, you can't do that. That's not good dad stuff or good husband stuff. What is it that we as men would say, if you're going to outright disrespect, you're going to outright treat me poorly, you're going to outright betray our vows of honor and dignity and love and loyalty and all of the sickness and in health and all of the things that we made vows that we will be there for each other. We even wrote our own. Which ones matter? And then how do we enforce? What's the consequence on the table for a good leader, a healthy leader these days? What do you do? What is it if she's like, she's really fucking up? She's really like over the line, way over.
Then, I mean, it gets, I mean, are kids involved? If kids involved, then obviously you make the call of saying, what are you really willing to put up and accept? Because then obviously if things like that and there's actual intent on destroying, then you don't put up with it. But then that's when you stick in your certainty and you stick to your guns and you actually act with conviction and certainty to make sure that you accept the highest form of what you deserve only. And if it doesn't match that and it's dropping the standard, then I don't think you accept it. And
not acceptance, what does it mean? Does that mean like you just shut up and sit in a corner and you don't say anything because you accept it?
No, the complete opposite. Well, it depends. I mean, it depends what has happened and what it looks like. It goes back that if there is, so communication is huge to prevent shit like that from happening. So there's got to be a talk. There's got to be active communication bit by bit, because we can't, all of a sudden look back and we've got a pile of shit that we need to work through when we could have been just scooping it up and putting it in the trash as it came up.
Right. But what if, because people say communication is so important. Well, what if trust is broken within the dynamic and I don't believe a word they're saying? Well, how good is communication when I don't believe you?
That's fair. That's a good point. So what to do if trust is broken? Then is that something could it be something, is the willingness to work, to stay together, to be together in that commitment?
They say yes, but do no.
Well, then actions do speak louder than words, don't they?
Shit. Yes. So then they're like, yes, I want this to work, but then they're continuing the behavior that makes it not work. Correct.
And if there is no proof, why continue to accept something? And why do people continue to accept stuff like that and stay in situations like that? Where does it come from? Does it come as a man? Does it come from a level of, is it lack of self-respect? Is it a lack of self-worth? Is it beliefs that you can't have, what you deserve in a relationship that is actually empowering?
Say yes to all. Yes to all of those. Yes, I don't have worth. Yes, I don't believe I would deserve more. Yes, all these things. And then we help a guy get into his king state. He's like, actually, I am worth something. And actually, I do believe that I have value. And actually, I am, worthy of being respected and honored and loved. What is the plan B? They said, we don't have a plan B. It seems like we have to at least be aware that if it did go this direction, there is something that we have to be able to say there's a consequence to. There's a boundary that I hold. There's a line that I do not bend. What is the line for men? What is the only option? Again, I can't beat the fuck out of her. I can't hit her. That's not going to fly. And I got teenage girls. They're not
what
at
does
a
that
point where you
solve anyway?
spank. Yeah, so that's not on the table. We're going to remove, and we're not hitting. That's off the table. Yeah. And I can't stop paying for things because that affects me and hurts people that I'm not trying to teach a lesson to. So I can't stop doing that. What is our line? How do we hold a line as a healthy man? What do we have to put on the table? And this is the only reason I'm challenging. I have no plan B. I'm like, well, then where's your line? How do you hold it? What's a consequence that's healthy?
Well, if it gets to the point that there is, it makes no longer sense and there is no willingness and there is no trust, then what else is left to do? But why stay in a relationship like that?
Looks like we'd have to at least have a plan B, has to at least be acknowledged that if you betray our relationship completely, plan B does exist. It doesn't mean I start a new relationship with somebody else, which is where most people's fears of comparison and inadequacy and insecurity comes from. Like, you're going to leave me for a better woman, whatever that means. And so it's remove that and just go, this is so unhealthy. I will not stay.
Yeah.
I will remove my provision. I will remove my presiding. I will remove my generosity. I will remove my fixing, my sorting, my leadership. I will remove my provisions from your life.
And make yourself the most successful version of yourself that you can be, and provide for the people that you love and care about. And I
think that you're right. It should matter when you leave.
Yeah.
I think you should raise the value
version of you and the most successful version of you that, people look at you and go, made a mistake.
Yeah. Fuck. I thought that I could do better, but that guy really worked on himself.
Yeah. It goes back to controlling the controllables and controlling yourself and making yourself continuously into the highest level king version of yourself that you can.
Yeah. Yeah. And
everyone's allowed to make the decisions and choices they want to make. If they fuck up, it's on them.
Correct.
I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop being and continue to go to the levels that I can go. Either come with me or don't.
Yes. This is the choices. The choices that I make are mine, and the consequences are mine. And the choices you make are yours. And there are consequences to some, and there's rewards to others. This is what will happen is going to happen.
Yeah.
And this is why it gets complicated when I do hear people say, I got no plan B. This is either going to work or what? Well, there is an or. There's a plan B. Or it doesn't work. That's got to be on the table. You don't have any other consequence. This is why men having autonomy in a relationship, I do believe I've talked to some heart side coaches, people who for a living work on relationships. And I ask them, is autonomy necessary? And it seems like the healthiest relationships I've ever seen all have a degree of autonomy that if one of us destroys the vows in the relationship, we would remove ourselves from it. And we can. And this is where it gets tricky because the codependency of we've mixed everything together to where I cannot leave if I wanted to has now made it so men are in abusive relationships. Men are now being abused around the same, if not more now than women, because we have removed every single enforcement that we have, including autonomy, including the ability to be independent and leave and remove provision. This has now made it so that you cannot be a king if you do not have autonomy. That's a challenge I'm putting on the table. I would like to know if you agree or disagree.
I think I agree, and it makes it even more valuable to help men step into that king version of themselves, actually see how capable and making a lot of money, having opportunities. And if I'm in the camp that I'm going to exhaust everything that I've got to make my family work, 100%, right? If it's not going to, for whatever reason, then so be it, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm gonna continue winning. I'm gonna continue succeeding. I'm gonna continue having more and more opportunities, looking after whoever I'm looking after, right?
Right.
But it's so important for men to develop that healthy masculine, to lead, to tackle shit that comes up before it's too late, to work on that relationship, to work on themselves together, to do whatever it takes, right? Until, and if then it happens, to then have the balls and the confidence and the mindset to say, hey, okay, I'm going to put up a boundary. I'm not going to go back on my word. This is my word. I say what I mean and I mean what I say. And if it's a no, it's a no. And if it's a yes, it's a yes. And if I say that I'm going to do something, I'm going to go and do it. And I'm not going to look back, and I'm not going to fall back into comfort and ease and what I know, because it's easy to stay in what you know, because you just say, well, I'm going to suffer either way. I'm just going to keep suffering at this.
Yeah. So I like the accountability to that too. Like, I said what I'm said, and I'm going to do what I do. And if I didn't do it the way that I said, I shall be attempting now to rectify and do it the way that I did say, because I overloaded my plate, or I didn't get around to it yet, but I will get to it. I got you. Yeah. And really sticking to it. I think the accountability part is where, this is why I watch my comment section turning out, well, what if he doesn't do it? You know, like, there's supposed to be the authority because he said what he said, but didn't do what he said he was going to do. And now they feel like I can judge myself into authority. And now I have a place to nag, bitch, and complain. Slow down there, ladies. Allow your man to be accountable to himself. And if he's not, these are conversations.
Yeah.
And this is where I'm strongly going to go into why men need men and why women need women.
100%.
Like, we have to do the black box thinking. Our groups, even this morning, I had like 30 guys sitting in a room while I was going hard on purpose. What is your purpose? How do you find it? Because it's one thing that men need, but it's really difficult to attain because there's a journey involved that guys aren't understanding. And so doing the purpose talk does come from, why do men need men? Have you ever heard of the term black box thinking? There was a book on this. It's just the idea for, okay, I'll give it to you. So in airplanes, there's a black box, and the black box records everything that happens in an airplane. So if it's a malfunction or something's not working right, the black box reported, even if there's a crash. What that does is they take the information from the black box that went wrong, and they send it to every airport that exists, so they can now be ahead of that problem, because that one mistake is now turned into everybody's benefit.
Yeah.
And so that's black box thinking. With men, there's something I realized this year when I was working with men, is guys are fixers, but guys also want it fixed. This is different from men to women, just so you know. If I was like, I can see there's a thing wrong with the business and you're probably doing this and this and it's not working, right? You're like, yeah, fuck yeah. I'm like, dude, here's what works. You do this and you do this, and you go, thank you. Fuck me. That would be awesome. Yes. Like, I'm going to use that because I want it fixed. Mm-hmm. But oftentimes women will vent and go, I don't want you to fix it. I don't want you to fix it. Men with men want it fixed. So we offer advice to fix. What we're doing then is taking, here's an example I remember. Just take any book. All right. So David Hawkins, we talked about him enough times. I've also got the Letting Go book in the kitchen. Andrea's going through that one now. With David Hawkins, how many years of wisdom does he have in this book?
Oof.
60 maybe,
Yeah.
you know, how many years of wisdom. But then he also stood on the shoulders of giants to write this book.
Yeah.
So let's just say it's 60 years that I gather, and let's say I read this book in a month or two, right? I just advance my brain 60 years in 1 to 2 months. How many books have we read? I've got fucking tons of fucking books that I've gone through.
Yeah.
So now I've advanced myself. Even Marcus Aurelius, that's another 60 years. And he was standing on the shoulders of guys for their 60 years. And so now inside of our heads are thousands of years of information that we've accumulated to put our experiences and our thoughts and our wisdom together. Now compound that with the things that we fucked up and learned the hard way. Now we are storing up so much wisdom. Now, if you take a group of, let's just keep it very small, 10 guys, all with different expertises, all with different books and experiences, all bringing 1,000 years plus of information to the table, who have interest in your best interest and want to fix things to a man who wants to improve. When guys are in black box thinking, we are sharing what has worked and not worked through all experiences in the past with all these different guys. And in 1 hour, you can gather 10,000 years of wisdom.
Yeah.
Even you and I talking right now, we are tossing around thousands of years of information very quickly in a conversation that people who haven't read many books or haven't gone down this is like, holy fuck, these two are talking about things I've never considered. I didn't know what I didn't know yet. And so with men working with men, we can problem solve and look at perspectives. I had 2 guys yesterday that were kind of upset with each other until I said, well, maybe let's look at it from this way and this way and this way. And by the end of it, they're like, I didn't consider that. That makes it literally no big deal at all. And I'm like, it was always in front of you, but you were caught up in the thought of what it should be instead of what it is, which made it pretty much kind of not really a big deal if I look at it from a different point of view. Yeah. This is just men with men. Now, in your experience, have you found this also? So make sure I'm not an anomaly here.
No, 100%. 100%. And it's that ability of, and again, when you have a coach, when you have someone with hindsight that isn't as emotionally involved, and it can help you to, I always say a kingmaker is someone that can cover your 6, your blind spots, and to help you to look and think about what you're going through with that different point of view, normally less emotionally attached. And that helps you just find different answers, think about the same thing in a slightly different way. It's so valuable because ultimately we want solutions. Right? We want solutions to whatever problem we have. So the quicker and the more, you've had how many years, how many thousands of experiences. I've had mine, someone else has had theirs, and you put them together. I want to know different points of views. I want to know different ideas, different thoughts. One of the things that I learned when I've recently just come back from Israel, where I was working with a football team, the ability to listen and take in different ideas and thoughts, bring them all together. And then once they're there, like, okay, we like that one. We're going to go together with it. And it's super valuable. And the faster you want to move through life and the higher levels you want to get through life, the more you need that. It's so valuable.
It's good to see too, that in order to be a king, it requires humility. This is one thing I love with the Marcus Aurelius thing. I use this often with my warriors, is he was the king of Rome at the height of Rome, which means he was technically the most powerful man on earth at that time. And he was a philosopher king. And one thing I enjoyed when he said, if you listen to what people are saying, you don't always have to agree. But if what you say has merit, makes sense, and it is an improvement, and after challenging, I'm like, that is better. I reserve the right to change my mind. That was great information. I didn't actually consider that, but once I apply it to what I know, it does improve it. So now I reserve the right to change my mind, because it is not about who is right. It's about what is right. And that seems more correct. And so I'm going to go with that until there's a better improvement. I reserve the right to change my mind. This doesn't mean that you were wrong before. I just didn't know as much. I do the example of Newton, for example. He said, an apple hit me in the head. Gravity's pulling down. We must be getting pulled down. And they're like, seems fucking right, dude. Every time I do something, like if I take this pen, it got pulled down. I don't know. I didn't see it, but it went down. So it must be pulling us down until this old Einstein guy comes around. He's like, maybe. Let me do the math it all out. He's like, actually, we're being pushed down from the outside. We're not being pulled down from the inside. Looks like the science is a little different. The math doesn't math. Well, Newton was right for a long time until this Einstein guy came around. So who was wrong? Well, they're both right until I knew more information. And now I reserve the right to change my mind. It seems like Einstein's got a point here.
It's like
I think that's the humility.
Upgrade of belief.
The humility of a king can say, even the king of Rome at the height says, I reserve the right to change my mind if you've given me better information. I think this is something lacking with humanity today, is we are afraid to be challenged because if you ask a question, you may expose my bullshit and you're going to trigger me.
Yeah, that's very true. It's very true.
So kings need humility. And that's a part, I think there's a big part that people would mix up with like the leadership or alpha is like, I'm a bad motherfucker. Don't fuck with me. It's like, well, hold on a second. The strongest guy in the room doesn't need to flex. I don't need to tell you how strong I am if I'm strong. I don't need to tell you how smart I am if I'm smart. I'm not sitting here going, well, let me tell you about all the credentials and books and certifications that I have. Stop it. Those who do don't need to flex. The humility of it all.
Yeah. The groundedness, right? It's very grounded. It's not an outwardly thing. It's very much an inwardly thing. Peace.
That's kingly. That's noble.
100%.
Let's go. Now, ladies, I'm going to give you the other piece to it. That's the guy side. That's what we're doing. If you're wondering, what are we doing with your men? That's what we're doing. Black box thinking. We're humble. We're learning. We're growing. We're accepting new information and we're fixing. And we like it. But I don't want you to fix my things. Ladies, I'm going to throw something out there. Oh, Kingmaker Carlos, I need your help here. Do you think that men are built for venting? Like for a lady, like, I just need to vent. I'm going to vent all over you. Do you think that men are we are built for us to just accept the venting aspect? What's your opinion?
It's very easy for us to want to fix things, right? Women need the soundboard. We might not be built for it. One of the things that I always like to ask my wife when we start talking and she's going through something is and it's saved a lot of arguments and fights, is simply, hey, what do you need right now? Do you need a solution, or you just need someone to vomit this on? I just need someone to listen. Okay, great. Awesome. Right. It's challenging because you want to help, you want to get into your masculine, you want to fix shit. And I think that's fine. It's one of those where, again, I want to serve her, I want to help her, I want to give her what she needs, right? And then eventually, if she says, "Okay, now I need a solution," okay, great. Here's what I think we should do.
I'm taking that as no, and the reason why is because I want to fix it, but you're bringing a bunch of stuff you don't want fixed. You're just soundboarding. I tell my girl, I got 5 girls in this house. I'm like, are you just sharing, or do you want something done here? They're like, no, I'm just sharing. I'm just putting it out there. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to let you know everything you're saying. I'm going to compartmentalize into my delete immediately after this conversation box, because you're just going to probably spew a bunch of negativity out of you. And I don't want to hold it. So everything you say, if later on you're like, well, I told you what I needed, I deleted it. Just so heads up. I'm not built for venting. I'm built for fixing. Now, some ladies are going to go like, well, that's not really fair. We're not talking about fair. Fair is not even on the table, because spewing negativity on somebody also isn't fair. Not everybody is qualified for those conversations. That's why you don't have empathy for your man. Just putting it out there. So with that being said, here's my solution for my women needing women. Vent all your shit out on your people who also get fuel from negativity, which girls rank 3 times higher in negative emotion than men. We don't enjoy it. We don't sit around bitching and complaining. We're always trying to solve or improve or get better. That's why guys do what we do. Even working with men, I've got a whole entire system designed for if guys start really fucking it all up. And I've never used it. We've never had a problem that we need to. Our guys follow creed and we all honor and respect each other. And so nobody's had that. I've never had to use the negative system yet. But the only time it ever got messed up is when a wife got involved and started fucking it up. It was always the ladies ruining it. And I'm like, ladies, let's give you a chance here. Women need women, and find a healthy resource that you can unload, but have your training and awareness that there are a couple things in here that I'm complaining about that I actually do want fixed. There's a few things in here I would like improvement on. There's a few things in here that like, that would be good if it was solved. And then take that small list and bring that to your guy after you've vented all the stuff out on your girls, and then bring that to your guy. And then go, here's the 3 things I actually do want to work on. And you go, baby, now we're teaming up. I don't need all the stuff that you don't need worked on. Give me the stuff you do. Vent all your things out to your girls who can be your sounding board. So that way you and I can work as a team for my strength and your strength.
Yeah.
What do you think about this solution? Because I understand I'm off into like a fairy tale world at the moment.
No, I think it's so important for women to have women to talk to, right? And for guys to have guys. It's so valuable. You need it, because I can provide certain something, and I can't provide other things. I just cannot. But the need is still there. So why not? Like, I can't expect my wife to provide me what me going talking to, the guys, what that's going to, I can't. When I go and throw some shit, when I go into the gym, lift some weight, I can't ask her for her to give me that which I can only get from weights. So it's healthier. It's because she needs to get that. And you just can't give it, but I can give plenty of other stuff, right? And she can give me plenty of stuff that I need from her. Mm-hmm. So that's what I would say about that.
I feel like we're aligned on this one. Yeah. Like the way I've broken this thing down, I'm like, it just seems like we need to find people who are also like healthy and working on their own selves. And so this leads to one of the things that becomes a problem people don't talk about very often, but it's very obvious whether you're a male or a female who's working on your shit. Now, I don't want to lead this one. I'm just going to go into like, what's your opinion of when somebody outgrows their friend group? What happens?
Man, this has happened to me plenty of times, and I don't know, is the word lost really the right word? Maybe. Let's just use it for argument's sake. I've lost a lot of connections, a lot of friends, which is always an interesting one, right? Because it makes you question. I know we touched on it before with relationships, if they were even right in the first place, or if it was two unhealthy people coming together. What should happen when you outgrow? I mean, if everyone projects what they've got inside of them. And if someone isn't willing to, I mean, if you were to changing in a certain way and someone doesn't accept that, then they were never accepting you for you anyway. They were just looking after themselves with you because you made them feel comfortable about the level that they were at. So I'm quite unapologetic. I'm the kind of person that, I mean, I accept people for who they are. If they want to start growing, awesome. If they're going to stop staying the level they're at, great. Ideally, I want to surround myself with people that continue to grow, right? But if someone all of a sudden starts and practices a different religion, I'm not the kind of person to be like, unless it's like completely weird and they do some old, like super weird shit, I'm not going to be the person that stops accepting it because I just know me. I know the intention and the heart that I have behind things. But if I start growing, stop accepting me, or then it's very much their choice, and I'm completely okay with that because I'm on my journey. And at the end of the day, I've got the people that in my life that are going to love me no matter what. My kids are going to love me the same. My wife is going to love me the same. And I've got a very small group of people that I trust that are going to love me and support me no matter what. And at the end of the day, I think that's all I need.
I think that you're right. And there's an interesting thing with the word acceptance in there is understanding, like, you said acceptance and the word loss. And this is probably where I would say, why is change so hard for people? Well, it's because change is loss. Even if your change is good, what you used to do is no longer there. And one thing I remember reading long ago was like 2,000-year-old, text on things where I was getting into everything is meant to change. Everything, every landscape, every mountain, every tree is going to grow. Every rock will be moved by erosion. Like over a long enough timeline, everything changes. Even the continents move. Like everything changes over time. Everything. Nothing will ever be the same. On a long enough timeline, our lives come and go. Everything is going to change. The room that I'm in right now will be something different in 100 years. Everything is meant to change. Well, why are we so bad at change? It's because it's loss. You know what I mean? Even if I used to, work left and then work at this place for 20 years, but then I got a better job and a better opportunity and better lifestyle and healthier everything, but I turned right. My entire routine is now different. It's change. It's loss. Now, here's a word that makes it easier from this. If my old friend group used to party and get drunk and get fucked up and they like to do this thing, and I have now outgrown that, I use a word is evolved. I've evolved out of that behavior. I have now evolved forward into a different form of thinking. But there's a part between I've evolved out of my old drinking, get fucked up, let's go party and just drink in the garage behavior into a leadership and growth and development and the type of mindset that I do want to have. There's this gap in the middle I think people forget about. There's a time when your old group doesn't fit what you're trying to do, but there's a transition period that you're not having a new group yet either. And there's that middle area of I'm still evolving into who I want to be to find like-minded folks, but I'm still evolving my mindset to even find like-minded folks. And that's a part where people really struggle with, like you said, the loss element is because I'm alone for a minute. There's a time frame. It could be months. It could be a year. It could be longer where you're not fitting into that group, but you're not yet far enough to fit into that advanced group yet either. And there's this middle area of where do I belong in my evolution that can make it so people struggle with that change.
And
did you experience that? Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Make them doubt, like, oh shit, am I doing the right thing? Is it actually going to work? But if we look at that, Rick, it's the same transformation process for anything. It's the leaving one place to go to another, right? It's when the frog jumps across the pond, it's up in the air. It's in no man's land, right? It's very much part of the process. I've seen that every single time, but at the same time, it's. Do you know, I'm going to use the example of a trapeze artist, right? If the trapeze artist just holds on to the bar, it's just a monkey swinging. But it's only truly alive when it lets go and it flies. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a fun show at all, right? And so those are the moments when we're really alive, where we're making that quantum leap and we're like, holy shit, is this going to work? And you feel all the emotions, the stress, the anxiety, the this, the that, like all of it. Your mind races and, you're way more aware as well. And I think that's very much part of the process, but that's where you need to have a vision. You need to have that purpose and you need to be on purpose and trust. We don't talk about trust anywhere near enough in today's world. It's lost. The art and the skill of trust is lost. And especially if we're in business and sport, sport is a bit more on the ego side, but especially in business, we're trying to create something that isn't there. We need to have trust that somehow the dots connect.
Yeah, I'm not against you at all with the. I actually really like that trapeze analogy, where like the space between the in the air, the uncertainty. Are they going to catch or are they not going to catch? Do they line up or do they not line up? Are they going to make it or not going to make it? And that space between where they were holding on to what they knew was safe and they understood, to have that space between where they let go, turn around, and then they're floating through, just there's nothing holding you, nothing there until they can grab on to the next thing. There's a space between. I actually really love the analogy. Now, when you get really good at this, you can start doing flips and shit in between.
Correct.
You start seeing guys.
And why do you make it? Right? It's because of the momentum of what you've been doing. It's gonna push you somewhere, right? And then you got to trust that there is going to be a bar there that is going to catch you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that analogy a lot. I'm probably going to steal some of that in the future. The thing too, though, is where I think the trust conversation goes right back to truth conversation. And here's something that I think you may really appreciate, that this is actually going to my next book. I'm actually writing on this now, is getting into, like, I don't know if there is such a thing as truth for people because of how subjective it is. We keep adding in our experiences, or I keep making up your intention, or I'll think that you really mean this when that's not what you said. And truth now becomes highly subjective. That's why everything that we hear and see is usually somebody's opinion or their perspective. And that's why if you look at it from multiple different ways, we get different answers on the exact same problem. So truth has become subjective based on what we know and experience, our beliefs, our systems of filters that we see the world through. If I'm highly racist, I believe everybody is a racist, and I think everyone's a racist. And I'll turn any scenario into racism. I'll turn any scenario into a religious hate. I'll turn any scenario into something that I believe the world is, and I'll fudge it to make sure I'm right. Well, that means even somebody who's like, well, we match shirts today. It's like, that's cultural appropriation. You're like, no, we just happen to wear the same shirt. Like, well, I made it a different truth. I created a different reality. Sure. I'm making it different. So truth becomes weird because we have to agree on truth, which then leaves Newton's right. Einstein's right. It's agreeing until aliens show up and go, you guys do not understand gravity. This is what gravity is. And we go, oh, well, that seems right. And so there's things that we don't know for truth, let alone to trust. And we don't trust ourselves, because do you know who we lie to the most? Us. We lie to us the most. We suppress, we repress, we ignore, we deny. And if you go into denial deep enough that I do not accept the authenticity of my reality because I want to call it something that makes me not feel bad, that makes it so I go into something that makes me feel good. So if I deny, I don't like how that feels, so I'm going to do something that I do like how it feels. I need to not feel bad, so I lean into distractions. I lean into something that does give me instant gratification, or even numbing, so I don't feel the pain of my reality. Yeah. And so then we get into we're not doing enough trust. We're not doing enough truth. Like, well, the reality of this is I don't think people are good at handling the truth, because
of course
it can hurt, and hurt feels bad. And then if it feels bad, I don't want to feel bad. My amygdala says feel good. Yeah. And so I'm going to lean towards feel good. So I'm going to go into social media. I'm going to go into shopping online.
It's the same across the board. It's food. It's everything. It's
drinking, porn, prescription drugs, any drugs. I don't care. We're going to go into something that feels good, even if it costs me a lot of discomfort later.
Yeah,
this is the recipe
because we
for
always
addiction.
seek that and use that word before that, instant gratification. Look at society. Look at it. We've been programmed. It's I wouldn't want to go to war with. I wouldn't want to go to war with 90% of the men out there these days. I really wouldn't. I don't know if you would, but I wouldn't.
Would you? In which way do you mean on that one? Because maybe I agree. I want to hear what you mean. I wouldn't go to war with,
because
like, in which way?
Look at the standards. Look at their ability to put up with discomfort on a prolonged period of time when the tough gets going.
Oh, go with them. You wouldn't take the guys today to block shields with. You wouldn't expect them to phalanx with you to protect you from your left.
Correct.
Right.
I wouldn't
Okay.
trust them.
Fair enough. Okay. I was trying to understand what you meant by that. Like, I'd go against them.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know, man. Like,
I probably could go against them, right?
Against them doesn't sound so bad.
If you drag out the war long enough, they'll buckle for sure.
Yeah. So what you mean is I couldn't trust you to protect me on my sides.
Of course not.
Like, so the phalanx element of
how
it.
Majority of people treat themselves is how they're going to treat you eventually.
If you look at the way they speak to themselves, yeah, for sure. Especially the doubt element, the anxiety element, you can't handle things. And this goes on both sides, though. I don't think people are very good at handling the truth. So we don't have enough trust. We don't have enough truth. We don't have enough trust. And I did a 2.5-hour training on what is trust. And we actually broke down like a system of development for how we let people through layers of trust. So that's a fun thing we can talk about a different day. But as far as there's no truth, there's no trust, and there's a missing element to though. If I'm going to trust and I'm going to accept truth, I can't accept radical truth without radical acceptance. Which means if I'm going to have you can tell me anything. You can tell me the truth. You can tell me things that hurt my feelings. You can tell me things that I don't want to hear, but I have to work on acceptance to be able to accept your truths. And they are yours without me taking it personal, without me getting triggered into a defense, without me having to blame, shame, judge, or be offended.
Yeah.
I need to be able to practice acceptance, which means I also have to practice loss and grief and things I don't understand to let go, which is denial, bargaining, anger, sadness, so that I can go, I can accept with my mind, heart, body, soul what you're saying. This doesn't mean I agree. But I can accept where you're coming from without being triggered. Yeah. I can still be at peace even with information I don't like. The reason why, though, is because I still have a choice on how I choose to handle it. And that may also not work advantageously because people lie to protect in most scenarios. And if your wife says, I've been thinking about another man, but I don't want to be with him, but I think about him all the time, there's guys that would not do well with this information.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, but I'm telling you the truth. It's like, but I can't accept that reality of it. This would mess people up, and vice versa or anything like this. You're like, even if it's true, it hurts.
Yeah.
We get in weird scenarios like this where we want radical truth, but I don't think we can handle it.
It's not easy for sure.
No.
For sure.
I want you to tell me all the truth. Why? What happens when you tell me all the truth? What does that do? If you tell me everything, what does that do on my end? It gives me, is it power? Do I get authority now? Now I know things that I can use. When you start opening up and telling radical truths to unhealthy people, they will abuse it. This is something on the girl side, and some of the women, where it's like, hey, ladies, you need to check yourselves again. Because reputation demolition has become the way that women bully, especially young girls are getting shredded by other girls because when they have information, they use it for evil. They use it for power. They use it for control. And ladies, this is your chance to step up for each other and support each other and grow and make it so that you are worthy of authority. Because when you're having it, it's not going well in the majority right now. And this is why it's almost forcing men to have these conversations with us. Because they're like, I had faith that if she had authority, she'd have compassion and empathy and nurture, just like she said. But once she had authority, I didn't get any of those. I got nagging, bitching, complaining. I'm not doing enough and I'm unworthy. I thought that would be a very different way that worked out. I thought that if I supported her to be a provider, that she would be generous. But it turns out women aren't as generous with their provisions. I've seen a lot of hypergamy kick in here where girls go, I want to be a nurse or a doctor or an attorney. And he's like, I'll take care of the home and the kids and support you. You go fight for your dreams. And then she does. And he's like, I got the home covered. And she's like, I don't think you do anything. I do everything. He's like, no, I take care of all the kids. It's like, well, I don't need you anymore for that. And there's a guy at the office who's got my attention because he's like, the man at the office. So now I think I'm going to date up. And you're like, what the hell? I thought that was going to work if I did all the good guy giving. I thought if I did the right thing and I supported you and I built you up and I gave you power and authority and I gave you the ability to be able to like show that equality, that if you had control and if you had power, you would do the right thing. You would be better. And I have had hundreds of calls where they go, I did everything I thought was right. And she literally demolished me, took everything, and left me for a guy who she works with because he seemed like he was providing more. He made more money. He had more opportunities, a better lifestyle. And the reason she's even there is because I built her to be there. Now, this happens on both sides, of course. But I am saying it's like the guys are like, I don't think that's working. Maybe we need to work on ourselves so that way we can at least have the control, because there's an argument. I understand I'm monologuing right now. I'm just getting into it. But there's an argument on this one where my men said men have more empathy than women. And the ladies were like, no, they don't. We're like, let's challenge. When it comes to children, it's easy to say, obviously, ladies have more empathy. They can know what a baby needs without words. They can feel that connection. And they've had a lot more, like moments where they can connect with the baby. They've had the breastfeeding and internal stuff. And there's all the things that connect that ability for them to understand a baby's needs without words. Men don't have that until they get a little older. And so like we don't get that connection until the kid gets a little bit, around like 2s and 3s where we start connecting then.
It's a different relationship too.
Of course. So do women have empathy for babies? Of course. More than guys can. We don't have the ability yet, but it's not that we don't care. It's we just don't understand that piece. Do women have empathy for other women? Oh, they sure can. Do women have empathy for TV show characters? Oh, they sure can. Do you have empathy for friends or even family members? Of course. But do they have empathy for their man? Well, this is where they get mixed up. Well-being and empathy are not the same thing. And so when we're watching, well, how much did you care about his heart? How much did you care about his feelings? How much did you care about what hurt his heart today? Or did you just go like, well, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to take care of it? Well, what do you want me to do? It's like, I'm not talking about doing, I'm talking about being. But us guys are taught to be human doings, not human beings with our ladies. And so ladies don't have empathy for their men. They have well-being for their men. Now, this is where, as humans, where do guys get empathy then? I have never seen more empathy for men than from other men. Sure. Go, bro.
Yeah.
Bro, I'm with you, man. I see your
that's
heart,
why they
bro.
need it. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like your family just got there. You got to go soon.
Oh, can you hear that? Sorry. Yeah, it just got here.
It's cool. Okay, no worries. No, it's okay. Yeah. I feel like this is a point that I'd like to leave it to where like ladies have opportunity here to be able to be good leaders and men have opportunity here to be good leaders and in our own rights where like you can build your kings and be your queens, but there are ways that it's done that work. And there are problems that we're noticing that aren't working. And I think there's opportunity now for men to work with men, women to work with women to make it so we don't fall into the obvious patterns that everyone in these industries are pointing out, like this is going to go bad. But we don't have to let it. We can choose. And I feel like that's like the overtone for like everything you've been saying, if that's fair.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And it's something that when we get it right, it will change lives and it will change relationships and will enhance every part of life. So I've had a really good time. It's been awesome. We've had a great conversation. I feel like we could talk for hours around this kind of stuff. And
we can. Well, I hope people got value from this because this was a higher level conversation. And so a lot of people won't go to these depths or won't take these challenges on, especially with each other, because it's cool watching two people who do what they do come in from their points of view to improve a concept. So Carlos, I appreciate you so much for being here, man. Thank you so much. I hope that you had a good time.
I appreciate you as well. Thank you for having me on, welcoming me into your community of people. And it's yeah, I agree. Hopefully people have found this valuable, and it's maybe, I know we've covered so much. It's been like almost 2.5 hours, but hopefully there's been things that people have just connected with them on a personally in a deeper level, and it's going to help them to step more and more into that king version of themselves and kick some ass at life and make the most of it.
Hell yeah. And one thing I just want to remind everybody is what Carlos and I are doing right now is like the tip of our icebergs. Like, if you want to get more information and like, man, I really like his style. I like how you're doing things. I want to be a king in my own household. Where do you want them to go so they can connect with you to take themselves to the next level?
Yeah, for sure. The easiest place is probably Instagram at the Kingmaker Coaching. You can find me on there. Shoot me a DM. Just say, hey, I was on. You heard Rick's podcast, and it kind of connected. And what I say to everyone is, don't trust what I say. Watch what I do. And if I can be of value in any way, I've got a bunch of great resources as well, in all sorts of different parts, whether it's money, whether it's even our Kingmaker protocol, which is really cool. More than happy to give that to any of your listeners, Rick, as well, if you're okay with that.
Oh yeah, dude, that'd be great.
Yeah. So the Instagram page is at the Kingmaker Coaching.
I want that. So I want that. That sounds awesome. Yeah. So I would like awesome. One.
Yeah, 100%.
Appreciate you, brother. We'll do some more stuff. Stay in touch on things, and let's go ahead and create some more stuff to help pull some more people out of their battles. All right, warriors.
Yeah, for sure.
Hope you guys have a good one. Thanks a lot.
Click on the button and you can become the hero in your own story. It's time to start making the choices to change. And the evolution that you're going to do begins with choosing the next step. This is the way. And together, we're always stronger.